So first of all, welcome everyone to the third and final RC Intros event. This event today features a panel of RC alumni. Our events before, we had a faculty panel and a student panel, and both of those recordings are on our website and on our YouTube page. So I encourage you to check those out in case you haven't seen them already. So first of all, to get started, my name is Logan Corey. I'm the Director of Admissions and Recruitment here in the residential college. I'm also a proud RC alumna, so I'm in good company here today. So before we officially get started, I just wanted to remind you that this event is being recorded. And as an attendee of this event, you won't have access to your microphone or your camera, but you will have access to the Q&A. So throughout the whole event today, feel free to drop some of your questions in the Q&A feature. I have some questions prepared I want to ask our panelists, but I really want to hear what those questions are on your mind so we can get you some answers. So to start, I'll share a brief overview of the RC. So if you have heard this from me before, thank you for your patience for bearing with me. And if you're new to the RC, I hope this helps answer some questions you might have on your mind about what we are all about. So let me share my screen. So first, we'll jump in a little bit to figure out where is the RC. So kind of to couch everything that right now we are in a more distance COVID time. So the RC really is all over the place because we are much more virtual, but in more of a typical or a normal year, we are here in East Quad on Central Campus right by the Block M. So you might know some of those landmarks of the Michigan campus, the Diag or the Michigan Union. You can see we're just a close walk from all of those. So RC students take classes all over campus. So they may be traveling from East Quad over to Angel Hall throughout a day, going back and forth. So really staying connected to the whole Michigan student experience. And it can also be helpful to think about what is the RC in terms of numbers, in terms of how many students are we on campus. So Michigan is known for having quite a few students, being quite a large campus, and the RC brings in up to 250 students in each incoming class. So we're just a very small slice of that whole student population, but it's helpful to note that RC students are also all LSA students. So they are part of that larger community of LSA students, and then they break that down and get that close-knit community as well. And there are a few key features of the RC I want to touch on today. I won't go too deep into any of these because I want to have more time for our panelists. So I encourage you to reach out to me if you want to learn some more. Check out our podcast on our website, some videos on our YouTube page. We've got a lot more testimonials from students who can really speak from their own experience. So first, I want to touch a little bit more about the RC in East Quad. So East Quad is a dorm and a residence hall in the sense that we have a computer lab, we have residential spaces for students, we have laundry facilities, we have study lounges, a dining hall, but we have all that. And we also have studio arts facilities, we have a theater, we have the last dark room anywhere on campus. So there's a lot of resources right there in that space that we might have classes around or events centered in. And a big pillar of the RC is community outreach. This isn't required for students by any means, but it's very common. And there's a lot of opportunities that really encourage this interest. So this might be taking your language skills to the next level by doing some ESL tutoring. It might be combining an interest in social engagement by getting involved in the Semester in Detroit program, whose program I'm wearing their t-shirt tonight. And we also have several RC courses that are taught inside the space. So right now these courses are virtual, but we do expect for the fall term that the majority of RC courses will be in person in East Quad. And part of this is because RC courses are so small. RC courses are an average of 9 to 20 students in the classroom. So you get a lot of one-on-one interaction with your instructor, which is really great. And then for those courses, you have your RC faculty. And the RC faculty also all have offices within East Quad. So you might be in your course, you have a couple questions and some comments in your essay, you want to continue that conversation afterwards, you can walk right down the hall to your instructor's office, and they're very accessible for that support. For your advising, RC advisors are also RC instructors. So you might have already met your advisor by having them in a course, seen them in the hall. Again, it kind of helps build that community, makes them a bit more accessible. And then when RC students aren't in the classroom, there's a lot of opportunities for student life, and a big version of that is RC forums. So these are clubs created by RC students for RC students, but with a little bit more structure similar to a discussion course. And from this, you can actually earn an academic credit. And they range in topics, everything from, there's a letters forum, health and wellness, food, which is always very popular. So each year, these adjust a little bit based on the student's interests. And then quickly, I want to touch on the RC requirements. So just a reminder that RC students are LSA students. So those main LSA academic requirements that every student must complete, those are also true for RC students. But conveniently, the majority of RC requirements overlap. So that means that you're really not adding a lot of extra time to your schedule. And this is why it's possible for the majority of RC students to double major, to major and minor, to learn multiple languages and still graduate on time with their goals. So probably the most well-known RC requirement is our language program. So all RC students are required to complete language to a higher level than their LSA peers, but they often complete this requirement in half as much time. So in the RC, we offer Spanish, French, Russian, German, and Japanese in the semi-intensive or immersion style. Once you reach that higher level, you get posted officially on your transcript, I'm proficient in whatever language you work to achieve. We also have first year writing seminar courses in the RC. Now let's say you are an honors RC student. So in that case, you would take one of the honors approved RC first year writing courses. So in that student's case, they're completing an LSA, an RC, and an honors requirement all at once with one course. For the art practicum and the RC, this is a good way to keep something in your schedule you've been passionate about in high school. Maybe you were part of the marching band and you want to keep a music course in your schedule, or maybe you've always wanted to try something like photography but never had the chance. This is a good way to build that into your schedule. And I always recommend, if you're having a particularly challenging or grueling semester and you know that going into it, it's helpful to add this course in at that time. Our last academic requirement is 4 additional RC courses. Now, if you're doing an RC major, this would not apply to you, but the majority of RC students do pursue LSA majors. So then they would complete 4 additional RC courses in any topic, any number of credits, any semester. So they could fulfill this by taking another language course, by taking an RC social sciences mini course, and they could use half of this by those credits from forums. The final requirement in the RC is not academic, it's our residential requirement. And we have the expectation that our students live with us for their first 2 years on campus. That way they really get a chance to get to know their community. They have all those resources right there at their fingertips. And for this incoming class, we are expecting they will be in person in East Quad. For last year, we were a little bit more flexible with things going on with COVID, but in line with the recent university announcements for housing, we're expecting our first year students to be here on campus. And this is just a brief reminder of the RC admissions timeline. So we're right now at the very end of that timeline near the confetti. And so that's where many students have already paid their deposit to U of M. They've decided and committed to come. They've confirmed their RC interest, and then they've secured a spot in the RC incoming class. So as of today, we're about at 2/3 capacity, and it is likely we will reach capacity in the next week or so. Now, if you have any questions about that, you have some wonderings about should you pay your deposit today, just reach out to me and I'll give you some clarity about the RC capacity and I'll help answer those questions. So as I said, feel free to reach out to me. And this is just a reminder of my contact information. I'm available to chat over Zoom, phone, email, whatever is convenient for you. So I will stop sharing my screen. And like I said, that would be a very brief whirlwind overview of RC requirements. And so next I'd like to invite our alumni panelists to turn their cameras on to come back on screen. And we'll do some brief introductions, but I also just want to note that my colleague Aisha is also here. So her camera is off and she's muted. She's helping answer some questions behind the scenes, but she's also an RC alum. So I want to give her a quick shout out as well. So first, we'll go in alphabetical order of first names to do some introductions. And I just want to hear from our panelists. Please share your name, your pronouns if you'd like to share, your RC graduation year and degrees, and what you are up to now. So I believe based on that, we would start first with Brandon.
So hopefully I remember everything, but hey everyone, my name is Brandon. I use the pronouns he, him, his. I was a 2020 graduate of the Residential College and University of Michigan. As an RC student, I double majored in biopsychology, cognition, neuroscience, and international studies with a minor in community action social change. And my RC language was Spanish, and I also did the ASL classes through the RC as well. And I think that's everything.
Hi, everyone. I'm Irfan. I graduated on 2016 through the RC. I didn't have an RC major. I majored in LSA in Cellular and Molecular Biology. And now I am currently a grad student at the University of Colorado Boulder, doing my PhD in biology education.
Hi, I'm Maeve, she, her. I graduated in 2018 with a degree in honors neuroscience with a minor in the RC minor of science, technology, and society. And currently I'm going to medical school at the Cleveland Clinic Lerner College of Medicine.
Hi, everybody. I'm Paige Pfleger. I go by she, her pronouns, and I graduated in 2015 with a double major in the RC, which was creative writing and literature, and then in LSA, which was communication studies. And since graduation, I've worked as a reporter for National Public Radio. Currently, I am based out of Nashville.
Hi, my name is Taylor-Ryan. I graduated from the RC in 2015 also, and I majored in political science, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And right now I am the director of analytics for a pilot project by the state of California called the Social Bridging Project, and we reach out to vulnerable communities about disaster readiness and COVID-19 wellness checks.
Thank you all. So as you can just see from that, there's a range of interests and experiences that come from RC alums, not one typical focus, not one typical career path, pretty broad. So first, I'd like to ask the question just for everyone, which is how did you hear about the RC, or why did you choose to join the RC? Kind of what brought you here? And so I'll start by calling on someone, then feel free to popcorn and call on the next person. So we'll start with Maeve.
Sure. Yeah. So I think I had initially heard about the RC through some friends, like an older sibling had applied to the RC and was considering going. And I guess to me, it just sounded like a perfect way to blend my different interests because I was planning on majoring in neuroscience when I went to college, and that was something I could do through LSA. But I had a bunch of artistic interests and, passion for social justice and language and connections that I thought that could really be fostered in an environment like the RC. What about you, Brandon?
Yeah, for me, it was through two of my friends. Well, they weren't friends at the time, but we went to high school together, and they were admissions assistants through the RC. So their job is like to recruit, and they did well, and they like convinced me to join the RC because like I reached out and got like the informational packet and everything. So yeah, they helped out a lot with just like helping me navigate because initially I was deciding between MCSP, or the Michigan Community Scholars Program, and the residential college. But after like hearing the information, like what I can gain from each of the departments, even though like they're both great programs, I feel like the RC kind of aligned more with like my interest in doing global work, working with various communities and things like that, especially with the language aspect. So yeah, that's kind of like what got me involved with the RC and everything. And I will go to Taylor-Ryan.
Hi, yeah, so I came across the RC shortly after I was admitted into Michigan, and it really caught my interest because I love the incorporation of the arts, and I was also really interested in taking Latin, which wasn't available at my high school, and so that definitely was a big flag. And coming from a smaller high school, I also like the idea of having a community-based learning environment and in smaller courses, because I was kind of hesitant to be in super large lecture halls, and I think that has resulted in me building strong bonds with my professors and really utilizing them as tools while in the RC as well as afterwards. And so, yeah. Irfan, would you like to?
Yeah, for sure. For me, when I first applied, I think it was through the Common App. I'm sure everyone did back in the day or even now. I think there was a checkbox like, yeah, do you want to be in part of RC? And I said, yeah, sure. I will say, I'll be honest, I just didn't like look up specifically what the RC was about. I think the part that caught my attention was the fact that it was a smaller, it was like a smaller community compared to University of Michigan itself, because it was such a big, it's a big school. So I think that even before I knew that I needed that, I just clicked. It was just by fate. So I'm kind of like that maverick in that sense, that I didn't know what I was signing up for, but I'm very fortunate that I didn't know, so that I ended up signing up for something that actually like changed my life as of even now. So yeah, and then I'll call in Paige.
Yeah, I think I remember a couple of people that I went to high school with had gone on to the RC. And so I think that's how I first heard of it. But I sort of was in this situation where I knew I was going to go to U of M just because of scholarship, because of money, honestly. I was kind of dreading going to a really huge school and kind of getting lost in the mix of like everybody was saying, like a 400-person lecture. And I knew I wanted to go into writing. And so I really loved the idea of like the intimacy of the RC and the community that is able to kind of give you, so you don't feel like you're kind of out in the middle of the sea, like without a lifesaver. You have a nice tight community where you can feel a good sense of belonging, as opposed to feeling lost in the massive institution.
Thank you, everybody. I definitely relate to a lot of that going through my own experience. We've had a couple questions about the language program, and one about, did you become fluent in foreign language that you study while you're in the RC immersion program? So kind of what level did it take you to? And kind of on the same note, do you still use your language? How has it shown up? How have those skills become helpful? And we can do kind of the same popcorn around. So this time first, I'll call on Taylor-Ryan.
So of course I took Latin. So I unfortunately don't have many opportunities to speak in Latin, but it has helped a lot in terms of preparation for the LSAT and really like honing in on sentence structure and dissecting words that I might not know initially. So I think that, I definitely was able to learn a lot more Latin that I've been able to retain. And I think that initially I thought everyone was kind of going to be in the same boat where they hadn't taken Latin before. Most of them went to the high schools where they did take Latin. So just kind of a red flag. If you are interested in Latin, just be aware, probably other people have had past experience, but I think the way that was so immersive, and we literally were just reading Latin like chapters from the first day onwards, it really helped out a lot. And I know a lot of my friends that have languages that they can speak are still fluent to this day, and they've done a lot of studying abroad. And so I think it's definitely a really great tool if you haven't necessarily built a strong foundation in high school. A lot of people come from different resources, and my high school in particular didn't have a lot of languages available. So it was a good way to kind of catch people up at a really short amount of time, and also build strong, friendships and support systems along the way. And I will call on Paige.
Yeah, so I did Spanish, and I had Spanish in high school and kind of previously, but I ended up testing for various sundry reasons into the like level 1 Spanish. And I was honestly really glad that I did, because I feel like the foundation that you get through RC's language program is just so much more thorough. And yeah, I went through the whole proficiency program and then took literature classes in Spanish, which I think also counted towards my creative writing and literature degree, which was handy. So those of you who are like, am I going to be able to get everything done with my majors? They can kind of, like Logan was saying, build off of each other or count as multiple. And I do use Spanish all the time in my job as a reporter. I went to Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria and covered the agricultural community there and how they were rebounding. And I did those interviews in Spanish. And I just did a story that aired this morning that was also in Spanish. So still using it, a little bit rusty. Definitely wish I had kept up with it a little bit better, but it's definitely sticks in your brain. It's effective. So, and I'll pop it to Brandon.
Yeah, I would say like I had somewhat similar experience. I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning, but I'm a dual graduate student still at Michigan in the School of Public Health and School of Social Work. And since I want to go into global health, I've definitely been trying to keep up with my skills in Spanish and everything. Haven't been that successful keeping up with it, but yeah, it's still like been a very useful skill to have, because even for like one of my program development classes, we're working with a community organization, Ipsy Mexicensis, and through that we were provided with like interviews that the organization put on, and I was the only person in my group to like translate those to like help with our program development and our grant proposal and everything. So I was still able to utilize those skills. I'm not fluent or anything like that, or I wouldn't consider myself to be fluent, but the skills still do stick with you after like years of practicing it, since it's so immersive overall. And yeah, hopefully that also helped me like learn other languages such as Portuguese, or like at least the initial basic foundation stuff for other languages too. So once you learn one language, you kind of get like the mindset and skill set to learn other ones as well. And then we'll go to Maeve.
Yeah, so I also took Spanish, and I guess my route was a little bit different. I came in from high school and I was told that I should take the proficiency exam right away, and I knew I wasn't ready for that, but I took it anyways. And since I truly was not ready for that, I got put into accelerated review, which was a really great experience and a good way to catch myself back up and make sure that I had that, immersive experience that really does make such a big difference in your language learning. And from there, I was able to take the proficiency exam again, do a lot better, and go on to do the readings courses, which are really so much fun. And since then, I've been able to take medical Spanish through my medical school, which has been really nice. Unfortunately, this past year, we weren't able to continue that because of COVID, but hopefully in the future, I'll be able to potentially take some more electives in that. And really just hopefully make patients feel more comfortable, where I don't think I would be at the level to take like an interpreter examination or anything like that. Just because you really want to be pretty much a native speaker to, make sure that everything that the patient is, saying gets, translated the most accurately can be, since that can be, a life or death things in the medical setting. But just making patients feel heard and cared for, I think, is really important, and that's something that that extra language skill can provide. And even just talking with old RC friends, a friend just called me up last week who we had been in the RC together, and we just started talking in Spanish to each other just because that was something that we don't get to do every day with just everybody on the street. And it was just a really nice experience. So I think it's something that definitely sticks with you, even if you don't practice it all the time, just because of the intensive experience. But what about you, Irfan?
I'm glad I'm the last one, because I technically don't fit into the criteria of taking a language. Since I speak 3, I was able to get an exemption. Now I just speak 1. I mean, I've been here for so long. I mean, the true American spirit. Anyway, I will say, my friend did take one in my same cohort. She took Japanese, and I saw her, like, the thing I will say, be able to answer that it is a very good program for languages. It is an immersive experience. You do spend a lot of time. And I know someone had a question about the time commitment, and it itself is a 12 credit class. Like, you will be spending day in and day out, speaking in that language, interacting with people from that who speaks the language natively, engage during lunch hours, having coffee hours. I know there's 2 separate times, and you are like drilled in that language. And so my friend who was just starting to learn the alphabets and the letters in Japanese completely transitioned to writing like sentences, like simple sentences on their second week. So which, if you were to take the LSA equivalent of the language classes outside of RC, that would take, it itself would be 2 or 3 weeks of like just covering your bases and the grammar. So I will say, like, even though the commitment is a lot, it definitely pays off. But it definitely did for my friend. I mean, even in a year, she was ready to give her first Japanese language. I know there's like different levels of Japanese language exams for proficiency, and she was able to just give the first one with confidence because she knew she was ready. So I feel you definitely get a lot out of it. I mean, I wish I could if I needed to. If it were me, I would have taken Spanish. But I will agree with everyone here is that it's definitely you get a lot out of it, but you have to put a lot into it as well. So, you know, if it were me, and I know people who took the class, they would just take another less intensive class, like a first year seminar, a writing class, or nothing heavy. I will, even for me, in my field, like if I were to take an intensive lab alongside the language, it would be very difficult unless I'm masochistic. Then otherwise, I would not recommend that for anyone. Yeah.
Thank you all. And also, Irfan, you pointed out a good kind of exception where it is possible to get an exception for the language requirement. A lot of times this is native speaker exemption if you went to a high school, for example, where English wasn't the predominant language. And there's a lot of different levels of experience that came in, not having the language in high school, having it at a higher level. And I just want to note too that unfortunately Latin is no longer taught in the RC. It's now still taught within U of M, and actually the RC instructor is teaching it, so I can vouch for the course. It's just not currently one of the RC languages. But I appreciate all of you sharing your experiences since it's very different levels, kind of how you came in with language. And I wanted to hear about an kind of describing the academic experience of an RC student. And this can be pretty broad. This doesn't have to be your whole schedule, all the courses you took, just kind of what the typical academic experience is. So this could be described by maybe a favorite RC course, a favorite instructor, especially because some of you have RC majors, some of you don't. So curious just to hear more about that. So first I will kick it over to Brandon, and if you could popcorn from there.
Yeah. So I would say, like, in terms of RC courses, those are honestly some of my favorite courses through undergrad, like, ever. So I would say, like, since I didn't do an RC major, I was required to do the 4 additional RC classes. But honestly, like, that wasn't an issue for me. I decided, since like I love music and different cultures and everything, like I've played music since 5th grade, that I would primarily be taking like some of the music courses through the RC. So I did 3 music courses through the RC, the Afro-Cuban drumming, Indonesian orchestra, and Chinese music course. And those all counted towards like other credits. So I think like creative expression or just like general credits and stuff like that. So yeah, I like took those throughout my undergrad semesters and everything. And I think like that was an amazing way to learn about other cultures, learn about like another skill. It was also like a self-care mechanism for me, because that's definitely something I didn't do very well as an undergrad student. It was just like take care of myself. But yeah, the RC classes always kind of like grounded me, brightened my day and everything. But yeah, I would say like overall, my academic experience was, I don't know like if it's like similar or very different from other students, because going from like mental health to global health to social justice and then music and languages, it was like a very large mix of stuff. But personally for me, I really like that because I felt like I wasn't in a box or anything like that, and I was always able to find different ways to connect like each of those different categories together to find like something that was of interest. And that's honestly like what led me to my graduate program now. I think the RC definitely like helped open my mind to like making those connections of like, how does, I don't know, like this mental disorder correlate with music or correlate with, I don't know, a different part of the world or health or something like that. So yeah, overall, I think it was a great diverse experience for my overall academic journey and everything. And I will go to Paige.
Yeah, I think my experience, I feel like it was just like I was saying, kind of that intimacy of being in small classes. And I think one of the really awesome things about the language requirement is, I started with a group of about like 20 or so language students in Spanish 1. And then I was with those same exact students in Spanish 2, and then next year in some of my literature classes. And so it really does build camaraderie. One of my friends that was in my Spanish class is still one of my best friends to this very day. So you definitely build that relationship, and you also build relationships with your professors, because they're just way more accessible because all the class sizes are so small. So a favorite of mine is writing professor Susan Rosengrant, and she teaches a lot of like creative and narrative journalism classes, which is really how I fell in love with like making journalism beautiful and not just newsy, which I think is like, I could definitely draw a line straight through her class to public radio. And I thought I wanted to be a newspaper reporter. And then I took that class and I was like, being able to describe things in like all this beautiful language has really inspired me to kind of take that different path. And I still think about the things that I learned in that class and like use those skills every day for my job. So that was definitely a favorite for me. How about you, Irfan?
Yeah, so because I had an LSA major, I didn't take a lot of RC classes other than my first year writing class, which was mandatory. I took human rights with Dr. Fox. I know they retired, I think after our teaching our course out of the semester, but it was a really good, cool class. I was able to learn about, what is human rights and those different forms of human rights violations and how do we talk about it in different contexts. And I had a really good group of people. I think we just like 10, 12. So again, kind of reiterating everyone's point about small class sizes, which I really appreciate. Even if it was just my only class that I've taken, I definitely enjoyed learning a lot from my peers and of course from the instructor herself. But I will say I still had some RC requirements, and I was able to fulfill that through after hours. So I think I'm not sure what they're called now, but they're RC clubs that you took like at after 5 p.m. when the classes were empty. So like it was student led. So I was in like arts and diversity club. I was in a sexual reproductive health club. It was fun. And then of course, I think with Taylor-Ryan, well, I'll just push it over to you later, but the diversity club. So we were in that together with our a couple of us. So there were just many avenues, and those qualified as independent studies. So I was able to take those courses and then, still be able to graduate through the RC as an RC student, but not necessarily as an RC major. So that's what I would have to say. And now I'm going to pass it to Taylor-Ryan.
Yes, we were in the diversity club, and yeah, and that's something else. I think beyond the classes, I think I definitely echo everyone's sentiments about it being a very close-knit community and living together as well. A lot of times when you're taking courses, you could end up in a dorm on North Campus, and then your friend is like all the way in West Hall. And so it's like, it's really nice to be able to live so close to your friends. I actually really miss it to this day. And with Diversity Club, that actually resulted from, there was so much racial unrest in the country. And my friend and I, we just were like, we don't really have an outlet, and we went to the faculty at the RC and discussed like what our plan was for this group, and just like letting people come in and tell their stories. And I think that in and of itself was kind of a method of self-care, because it just kind of gave us all a safe space to discuss things weekly, and just kind of like leave the floor open and dissecting common issues that we were facing on campus that we were kind of in a way sheltered from being in the RC, because there's so many different people and there's so many different cultures that I think once I started stepping out more on campus, I started seeing the more classic issues that people deal with on a college campus. And so that was really, it really made me even that much more appreciative of being part of the RC. And yeah, we had an awesome event together for the Diversity Club.
And I think Maeve, you haven't shared, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the schedule of an RC pre-med is a little bit sort of different than what you might think classically, but it sounds kind of like Irfan had sort of a similar thing too, and perhaps Brandon as well, like having those, the 300-person lectures or things like, Chem 125 and whatnot. It really does make you appreciate your small RC classes where you get a lot more interaction and just that time to connect with professors and your peers. And of course, as was mentioned too, I think they're called forums now. Is that right? Yeah. So the forums were all super fun. I was in, well, I don't know why it was the one forum that was called something else, but like book co-op. I was in book co-op for a while, and I know they had like film forum, eco forum, a bunch of new forums created when I was there that I think are still going on today. But like I mentioned before, I had an RC minor, so I still sort of stayed connected to the RC through that. And a lot of my friends and my lifelong friends now have been RC pre-meds or now RC med students. And so we ended up taking a lot of classes together, and we took a lot of classes that sort of lived at that intersection of like medical humanities and medical anthropology, which I think gives you a really nice holistic perspective on the field of medicine and health, kind of, to what Brandon was alluding to as well. It's just a really complex topic and a really complex system to get your head around. And so having those multiple perspectives and being able to discuss them in intimate groups with people, I think really enriches your experience. And so that was one of the things that I really appreciated most.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing. And we've had a question come in, which kind of connects with something I was going to ask too. The question is, would you say the RC ever feels elite or exclusive? And so kind of on the same note, I wanted to say, what are some misconceptions you've heard about the RC or anything you'd like to kind of demythify about the RC? So I'll have a start with Paige first.
I would never describe the RC as elite. I feel like I thought that a lot of University of Michigan felt very elite in a way that I didn't necessarily love, but that was definitely not my experience with the RC. I think it's like I feel like the stereotype is like it's pretty hippy dippy, like crunchy. Like there was definitely like at least a couple kids per class who wouldn't wear shoes around the dorm. Like that's the vibe. So I don't think I ever found it to be elite. And I think there were sort of what I think Taylor was alluding to is like, in a lot of ways, I think the RC does a better job at like creating a safe and like diverse space for different people of different backgrounds with different like approaches. And I don't know if that's just due to the fact that it's like based around language and like communicating cross-culturally, but I feel like I wish the university at large was more like the RC in a lot of ways. So I'll bop it over to Maeve. She's laughing.
It's mostly because I would say the exact same thing. Yeah, I feel like the RC just gets the stereotype of being the hippies, and I think, I mean, again, yeah, sometimes that applies. But I think it's really just mostly for people who don't want to be boxed into one particular thing, or like to explore and do different things. And I think that, I don't know, I would never call it elitist either, although I mean, I recognize there's a lot of different people with different identities that come into the RC, and that can create different cultures year to year within the RC itself. But that wasn't ever the sense that I got, or the sense like talking to others when they would hear that I was in the RC. It was more shocking. I think it was probably more like elitist to like be a pre-med, and then they would hear I was in the RC and they're like, whoa, what's that all about? But yeah, no, I think it's just a really welcoming and inclusive environment on a whole, at least from my personal experience. But what do you think, Taylor-Ryan?
Yeah, I definitely don't think I got any elitist vibes from my RC specific classes. If anything, I mean, coming from Michigan, our socioeconomic statuses are just so different than like the rest of the country. And so I was like, oh, I'm middle class. And then I like, as I stepped outside of, the broader Michigan world, I was like, oh, like, maybe not. And so it's like, but I think the RC was a really good support system, because even though people did, they may have come from financially privileged backgrounds, I think that because we were able to spend so much time one-on-one and learn more about each other's backgrounds, like during class and after class and on the weekends, I think that we were able to create a better understanding of our backgrounds and just how that all kind of related to our experience at Michigan. And a lot of people, I think, recognize, the disparities and stuff like that, and we're better advocates because of that. And so, yeah, so definitely don't think it's elitist. I will call on Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, I second everything everyone said. I also like another misconception, especially based off like what I said about taking all these music classes, is that like everyone in the artsy is very artsy. Not true at all. Like for the music classes I took, of course, like I don't have any prior experience to like Indonesian orchestra. That was never a thing until like, I came here. So like I didn't need like any experience for it. But I think like overall the vibe, I definitely don't think it's exclusive or elitist or anything like that. If anything, it's the complete opposite in my opinion, because like being especially like a Black student at Michigan, it was a lot to kind of sometimes like walk through the diag to, I don't know, like North Quad or something like that, and like not always see a face that looked like mine. But in the RC, I felt I like either saw that representation or I felt like I was welcomed in that space, like I was seen and everything. So I definitely don't feel like it was like I was ever looked down upon. If anything, I was like rushing back to East Quad to kind of feel like be like back at my home base and everything. So yeah, I definitely think it's like a complete opposite. And Irfan, if you have like anything else to add.
Yeah, definitely not elite. I will say if you are really asking for elite, you should ask our next door neighbor. So we'll just leave it at that. I will say, and neither are we exclusive. I mean, we're just exclusive in the sense that we're in East Quad in our special building, and it was like, and back then when it was just recently renovated, so we had all privilege, all access pass to the bathrooms and the dining hall and everything. So I guess back then, sure it was. But I will say the other word I would like to say is eccentric, and in a good way. I myself am and always and still I am an eccentric. So it is. I will say that we have a certain charm to our own presence in that department, and as we share our identities beyond the RC walls, as people ask like, oh, which department or where are you? Where do you live? Oh, East Quad. Oh, RC. Yeah. Oh, okay. And they look at you in a certain way, and then you're just like, okay, leave it at that. Of course, you hear people chat from the back, behind your back, saying, okay, they're the weirdos. But like I said, I think we need weirdos in this country. We need weirdos in this world, because that adds like a layer of like creativity, color, and fun. And I am a prime example of that. So I will just circle back to the first question of like, I never chose the RC. RC chose me. it was just fate for me to click on that checkbox, because otherwise I would have just been lost in the sea and your typical LSA shenanigans. But being in the RC, it just helped me to like gather myself and find my true calling, which wasn't biology education. It was something else, but I still definitely felt accepted. And again, as a person of color, I was able to make friends who were also fellow person of colors in the RC, who again, even within the RC, were kind of eccentric in our own sense, and we're able to just find that common between each other. And now we are as close as we can ever be. Yeah.
Thank you all for sharing. And I really like hearing about how community formed in all of your different years, since there's some commonalities throughout all of them too. We had one more kind of question back about the language requirement. So I'll kind of throw this out there. If anyone would like to answer, they can unmute, but we don't have to answer this one. Did the language requirement ever seem daunting or annoying? So whoever would like to, feel free to, yeah, unmute.
I can talk about it briefly. I definitely think it does seem daunting for sure. And I think any RC person would be lying to you if they said that they didn't have like a crisis of confidence right before proficiency. I think that's a hallmark. Someone asked about traditions. That's it. That's a hallmark of the RC experience. But and I definitely I think since you do work so hard and the experience is so immersive, that I definitely felt after I had completed my RC requirements, I was like, I'm going to take a break from Spanish. And I think in hindsight, that was bad, because I feel like it's like a muscle. And I definitely was I was totally all built up and jacked in that moment. And then I dropped it. And now I'm trying to relearn. But I definitely think it can seem daunting and it can seem really intimidating. But at the same time, you have a lot of people who are going through the same thing that you're going through. And people, I feel like, at least I found in my experience, would work with you and study with you and help you out. There's a lot of that peer mentorship kind of vibe in the RC. So even when you feel at your limit, there are people who will help you out to bring you back from the edge.
Yeah, and I'll just add, having a really science heavy course schedule, I personally appreciated the break, getting away from, looking at orgo diagrams for hours on end. It was nice to actually write a paper. So I don't know. I think that, yeah, it can be, there are some things that can be very tedious about it, but at the same time, it can also provide your brain a nice break if you're doing a different major that's outside of languages and things like that.
Yeah, thank you both. So as Paige mentioned, we also got a question about traditions, and it's what are some of your favorite traditions in the RC? And I'll also make this broader. What was a favorite tradition that you made with RC friends? So either way, if it was kind of RC wide or something that you kind of came up with on your own. And to start this one, I will pass it to Irfan.
I don't recall anything specific RC tradition. I will say, I think that the tradition, especially during graduation, when you get to walk up on stage, I think that's very different from, at least from my major graduation day, where we walk up the stage, hold on a fake certificate or diploma, and then walk down and not really have I guess I had some time to thank my parents and whatnot, but I feel like RC, again, being different, it was a lot more entertaining and a lot more memorable. I still remember it to this day. You just walk up. Of course, we were in a smaller hall, so you had your family members, your RC peers, and then again more family, and then staff and faculty and all of that at the back. So it was fun to walk up on stage. You can also the great part was you could either walk up solo or as a group. So my friends and I, we walked up all together. We combined all our minutes. So you have a minute to present, and I think, or was it, a minute. And then if you combine 5 people, you get 5 minutes. So we had walked in. Some people had more to say versus others. It was my first attempt at stand-up. It was horrible, but who cares, because it was back then, and I'm a lot better now. Not that I do stand up and I'm living. Okay, but the point is, it was definitely a lot of fun and very memorable. It's just able to talk about your experience and be able to get the spot. spotlight, but you're being recognized than just by your student ID number or your last name, like, oh, Alam, take a certificate, post for the picture. Okay, next. The RC definitely felt more personable, and yeah, that would be the most the tradition that I definitely appreciate, and I'm sure it's still being followed to this day. But yeah, that would be what I would say.
Yeah, I would say for mine, I think it probably has to be like the chili course mart and everything. I think like that is just an iconic event for the RC. So basically, the way that it's like was set up when I was there and everything was that the lower atrium of East Quad would be decked out with all these tables and stuff like that. And then professors who will be teaching classes for the following semester, they will be at the tables and everything, and you can like talk to them directly about their courses. So before you register, before you like take a class and figure out it's like not for you and have to like drop it and like change your whole schedule again, you can talk to them, kind of get a sense of their personality. And then also like the course material and everything. And then one of the best parts is that they have a lot of food. So there's like, I think chili, nachos, ice cream bar. And yeah, it's just an amazing time to just like go get free food, talk to other students, talk to the other professors and everything like that. And I don't, is that like the same one with the student organizations? I should really know this since it was like not even years since I graduated, but that might be something else with the student organizations where they have like something similar set up. But yeah, I look forward to that every semester, and yeah, always got like a plate to go. So I think that's like probably like one of my favorite traditions, just to interact with everyone and get like food at the same time. We'll go to Maeve.
Dang, you both stole my favorite traditions. I love the RC minute for graduation. My friends and I did the same thing. We pooled our minutes and did an acoustic version of Mr. Brightside. And then the chili course mart is, yeah, so much fun. It's just great. Even if you're not even looking for classes, it's good to just like get food, see people, see old professors who you haven't connected with in a while. It's just a great time. But I would say, to add something novel, I don't know if they still do this, but I remember when I was there, they did like the Rocky Horror Picture Show in the Keene Theater for Halloween, and that was always so much fun, because if you've never been to one of those before, it's entirely interactive. You I don't think we threw anything. I think that was off limits, but there's the callbacks and everything, and you dress up, and it was such a fun time. So yeah, the RC definitely has a lot of really fun traditions. But what about you, Paige?
I actually am very proud to say that I was part of the very first Rocky Horror cast when that tradition started. So that's great. I was going to say that I think one of my favorite, and it piggybacks nicely, is the RC players. So the RC actually has its own theater group, and it's student-led and student-run. And I was president, I think, at some point. And I really loved, we did a event called Evening of Scenes, and it would happen every semester. And basically students, and it didn't have to just be RC students, but there were a fair amount of RC students, would submit like short plays. And then we would select a bunch of short plays and then cast them with RC players folks who also, again, didn't have to just be from the RC. There were a lot of RC players, friends from all over the university, and then did this big theater performance where all of these like aspiring playwrights got to see, kind of for the first time, their like vision come to life on a stage. And it was just so fun. I think I got involved in RC players because of Evening of Scenes, and then it quickly kind of became my favorite part of college. So they do like a 24-hour theater experience where we would like trap ourselves in the Keene Theater and write a play, and then like within 24 hours, you would write it, cast it, memorize it, and then put it on stage once you're like totally sleep deprived and like going off the wall. So I think RC Players was definitely one of my favorite kind of parts of the community and some of my favorite traditions that I always looked forward to. How about you, Taylor?
Yeah, I think that I would just echo the graduation experience was really great. And I think Paige actually had to like tape mine because my last name's Ned and her last name's Pfleger. My mom was stuck in traffic. And so Paige literally had to like record it. And I think beyond that, because I kind of, when we were asked the question about elitism in RC, I think Paige and I, like, we're not on that mindset where like how RC looks like now, the East Quad situation, because we were in the old East Quad. So my friend and I, before East Quad was like torn down basically and remodeled, we wrote enemies of the air beware, the chamber of secrets has been opened, enemy of like we thought we were gonna get in trouble, and it actually like went kind of like mini viral like on our Facebook. Everyone's like, whoa, who did this? Like, and then it just, you know, got demolished. So I think that was one of my favorite that artistic expression. And then definitely like Harry Potter themed dinners, always lined up for those. And so yeah.
Thank you all. I love the shout out to the Oldies Squad. That was when I was there as well, so I appreciate that. We're getting a little short on time, so I just want to make sure I get a chance to ask all of you, what advice would you give to students that are coming into the incoming RC class, or if they're considering they're still on the fence, either way. So first, I will kick it over to Maeve.
Sure. I mean, I guess I would just encourage those students who don't necessarily want to do an RC major. It does not mean you can't still be in the RC and still get a really rich RC experience. I think the only advice I would have is just make sure you want to learn a language, because that is such a big part of the curriculum. But if that's something that you're passionate about and you really like to build community and want to take advantage of a smaller community at Michigan, it's definitely not going to get in your way. It's only going to strengthen you and make you a more well-rounded person. So yeah, if you have that introspection, think about your priorities. If you come to the conclusion that the RC sounds great for you, but you're just worried about your schedule, don't be. It's totally doable. But Brandon?
Yeah, I would say for me, I guess like looking back at it like less than a year ago and everything, two things that really stand out to me, at least like from my experience, is that there's a difference between doing a lot and doing it well, and focus on doing it well more than doing a lot. I think that's something that I'm still learning how to navigate that. And then also just make sure that you're gonna follow a path that like might be unique to you. You might not know what it looks like or anything like that, but just make sure that at the end of the day, you don't necessarily have like regrets about your undergrad experience or anything like that. So whether that is just like being curious about the RC, potentially joining, or like having a drop, like if you drop, nothing bad is gonna happen or anything like that, but don't count yourself out until like you've taken that chance to like at least try it out or something. Because yeah, there's like a lot of opportunities at Michigan. So it can be very overwhelming, but yeah, it just gives you like a lot of opportunities to create your own path, but you have to take that initiative to make that path a reality. So yeah, dream big and just go for it. Hope for the best. Sometimes you wing it. It is what it is, but it always works out in the end. But yeah, that would be my advice. And then I'll go to Paige.
Yeah, I love that advice about, especially that there's like no direct path, I think when you get to college, you're like, I need to do this and this and this and this in order to get from here to here. And like, there is no right way to get where you're going. And there is no direct path and there is no correct path. And so I think it's really just about following your interests and your curiosities and trying to really enjoy and like reap all of the benefits of a community and a support system that's like automatically baked into being part of the RC. And I think I can't imagine my college experience without it. And yeah, so if you're on the fence and you're like, I don't know, is this for me? I would totally say do it. It was definitely my favorite part of going to U of M. So how about you, Taylor?
Thank you. So my advice would be, if you are going to be in the RC, try to leave the building. If all of your classes are in your dorm. I didn't really do that like my first semester, and finally when I had to leave, like people were like, whoa, I've never seen you before, because like it never left E Squad. And so I felt like and I accidentally signed up for a class on North Campus because I didn't even know where the library was. So just still try to like leave. You don't have to, but you probably should. I learned that the hard way. And I think that you should, I mean, I really can't say enough about going to the RC. I think really it's so versatile, and you can really make it reflect your interest and kind of plug you into a core group of people. And my friends and I are by no means homogenous, and where like we all have the same interests and we all took the same paths. I think everyone has their own unique route, but just having that support system and not kind of having to deal with the luck of the draw, like where your friend's going to end up. They're already there, and you have this community based learning. So, yeah.
And I'll just say, just have an open mindset. Don't feel obligated to, fit into a certain box. And if you are applying to the RC and your friends might say, why are you applying to the RC? I heard things about the RC. And it's again, going back to the whole eccentricities and all of that stuff. I would just say, don't give them, don't lend them your ear. I feel like you should enjoy the experience, whether or not you intend to do an RC major. I will say that the experience is worthwhile. It'll make your 4 years a lot more bearable and a lot more comfortable. Like, I guess you will just have a better community that can relate to, whether or not you are a STEM major or a humanities major or a social science major. Like your path, you can't really, as everyone mentioned, like it's not determined the day you walk on the campus. I mean, no matter how concrete you might think that might be the case, even for me when I first walked in, I mean, here I am doing not completely different, but to some extent different from what I would intended to at the beginning, or by the end I graduated. But I will just say, just be open to the experience, enjoy the experience while you're in, and yeah, languages are hard. So, but if you work really well at it, it's going to pay off, whether or not you're going to be in a field that requires the language, but it just broadens your horizon and increases your intercultural competence. Thank you.
Thank you all. I think this is the perfect note to end on. I just really quick want to thank all of the panelists. I know we're dealing with different time zones, busy schedules, studies, jobs. So I really appreciate all of you spending your time here today and just sharing all that you've loved about the RC. This is really wonderful. I was just chatting earlier how it's been a difficult year because we're not in person the same way, but hearing all this just is very reinvigorating, makes me very nostalgic and very excited about the fall as well. So just thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. Just a reminder, because we recorded, this will be up on our YouTube page. This will be on our website, so you can check it out, share it with your friends. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out my way. But again, thank you all, and go blue.
Go blue, bye.